communities. Please welcome my guest, Sebastian Sanders, to the show. Hey, what's going
Hey,
on?
hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me on today. Very excited.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes. I've been actually anticipating this interview with you for quite some time. I know that you're doing so much in the community, and the way you actually came across my table was someone actually that I knew recommended your store to me,
Mhm.
and she fell in love with it. Thought she knows my heart when it comes down to youth and giving and nonprofits and things like that. And she was like, "Hey, I ran into this guy. I think you should check him out." And so she was like, "That you want him on your show." So, and then the relationship just kind of started from there, I think. So, I always try to give a backstory on how I meet those that are coming on my show, because it's important for people to know that sometimes you have to build a relationship or God sends people because of what your alignment is. And so I wanted to tell that a little bit. But give us a little bit more of who Sebastian Sanders is, and I really want to know what's your why.
hmm Yeah, I know. I always tell people it all starts at home, and so I think for me, not knowing at 12 years old, my father installed into me the art of giving, which I wrote my first book on, and so I was asked, "Do you want Christmas presents or do you want money?" At 12 years old, and so I was like, naturally, as a 12-year-old, you like, okay, I'll take the money. I go buy what I want. And I never forget, my dad was like, "Okay, we're gonna give you the money. You get $500, but before you can buy anything that you want. You buy everybody in the family a gift." And so I had to buy my mom a gift, dad a gift, grandmother, brother, sister, everybody. And so as a 12-year-old, that's you don't want to hear that, right? You're annoyed. You're like, hey, you gave me this money. Now I gotta go buy everybody a gift. Half of the money would be gone. And so the first year I hated it. I was like, man, no, don't do this again. The next year, I never forget, I got my grandmother a Red Lobster gift card, and she was so excited. She's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna take myself on a date." And so, seeing her happy, that did something to me. And then from there it just started to progress. So I fell in love with giving and helping others. And so as I got a little older, I started to just like getting out gifts. And then when I got to high school and when I got into college, is when I really started to truly understand what I wanted to do with my life, which is business. Seeing my parents have entrepreneurship things going on my whole life. I always loved business ever since I was like 3 or 4 years old. And so my parents always say you weren't a normal kid that liked toys. You wanted to go get play money and cell phones from the dollar store. That's all you ever wanted. And so, naturally the things that you do at a young age truly follow you. So I think business and community have always been around me. I just didn't know exactly how that would transfer over into a career. So I fast forward, I get to college. I was a first generation graduate student, but my freshman year, I was at a PWI at University of Texas, San Antonio. You've seen so many people your freshman year. Everybody's on campus, but you see the drop off the next year. And ultimately, I saw the drop off in the Black community, right? You didn't see a lot of people come back. So things like that, it started to like, spark questions in my mind. But then also going back to my middle school days, I remember I had the luxury of being a kid. I can go home, play video games, have fun. I can be a kid. Unfortunately, I had classmates who had to grow up a little faster, and they had to be the mom and the dads and the brothers and the sisters because they just didn't have. And you ultimately think about the people that had talent, but ultimately their community or their family obligations were the things that held them down or prevented them, from being great. And so you start to think about all those different things being a young African American and male, and then you start to look at what's truly going on, and you really think of it, the root cause of poverty and everything. It's a lack of financial circulation going around in the community, but also the lack of financial literacy. There's not enough knowledge being exposed to impoverished communities. The school system can only do so much within an 8-hour day. They have to get off, other curriculums and things of that nature. So it's like, what can we do to really help and serve those kids? And so I think me feeling a certain way of helping others, but also seeing the root cause of the problem, I think God kind of put on me at a young age when I was 19 at the time, start a nonprofit organization. I didn't know what I was doing, to be quite honest. I didn't even want to start a nonprofit because I had this business mindset, and I'm like, no, I want to make money. I don't want to get into the nonprofit space. And being ignorant at the time of not knowing, you just don't know what you don't know. And so started the organization. We really didn't have the program at the time. We were just trying to see how many kids we can help get to college. And then you soon realize schools can force feed college so much that certain kids get turned off because college may not be the route to success for them. Some kids are better off in picking up a trade, going to the military, or going straight to the workforce after high school. So ultimately, it's about exposing them and giving them the life skills and the resources that they need in order to make that decision after high school. And so it took us about 3, maybe 4 years to truly figure out exactly what type of mission we wanted until we developed the program. And that's when we developed the program, the Young Billionaires Club in 2021. But for me, my career in a nutshell has been cultivating business and community. Being a graduate from UTSA, spending 4.5 years in corporate as a sales and supply chain manager. My career has started off, in business, managing a multi-million dollar portfolio allowed me to understand how to operate a business, but also how to lead people. And so, being able to, start my own organization, become a social entrepreneur, stepping into the speaking realm and doing youth motivational speaking, across the world, and then stepping into the author realm and writing my first book. All of my, steps of success have been created from things that I just went out and tried. I had a brief rap career that I thought was going to be successful, but that really didn't go anywhere. But that taught me how to use my voice. It taught me how to write songs, which I learned how to write books. And so every step of the way, God was preparing me for the man that I am today. And I know, being 27, you still have a long way to go. But I think everything that I've done has been truly a testament of just tasting your passion and giving it your all. And so, for me, when people ask me, what do you do in a nutshell? I always tell people, I'm a social entrepreneur, and a community developer and an author. And I like to use those titles to be specific because entrepreneurship is not always what you think it is. Sometimes you have social entrepreneurs who create things and they become super wealthy and they become super successful. And community developers, because that's what we're doing. We're developing these communities to give these kids an improvement of the quality of living.
Oh my gosh. I was like, that was a fully loaded question that you covered everything. But it just basically give the audience a little bit more of why you're here. And what I did like the fact what you're saying is number one, at the age of 12, it started then. So we have to make sure that we unpack everything that you just stated, because if your father, correct, you said he actually embedded and gave to you and say, hey, giving is important, so you started to give and buy all of the gifts. So that just took you down this whole road, not only just your education, and starting the business, because I know that was going to be one of my questions, like why nonprofit, but the giving started early on, so it was already embedded in you to do so anyway. Yeah, we want to go into business to make money, and you don't know what you don't know, but you did it anyway. And so you overcame the fear. And yeah, you stumbled and you figured it out. And it does take time, right? And so the fact that you actually wanted to make it work, and I always say it's going to work or it's going to work. So you're going to figure it out. You have to pivot in business, especially in the beginning. But I really, really love it. And I know one of my mentors also says that he wants you to start a business that actually makes money before you start a nonprofit, because you starting a nonprofit, you start with nothing. You
Yeah,
have no
yeah.
money. So how did you actually accumulate and get that name out there, to make sure that you can actually be successful in this business?
It took a lot of branding. And in the beginning, there was no structure. We didn't even have a vision, to be quite honest, because I really just didn't know what I was doing. I was 19, and but I always knew when I'm really like into something, the ambitious side of me comes out, and I really won't stop until I just can't stop, to be honest. And so it took me 2 years of volunteering with others, seeing how people structure nonprofits. When I did that first 2 years, we really didn't do anything, but I would just grab a bunch of my college buddies and we would just go around San Antonio volunteering. What that allowed for me was it allowed me to be in spaces, but it allowed me to utilize people around me to build up their resume so they can get their volunteer hours and things of that nature. So when I did that, I started to see like, okay, how do you truly build an organization? How do you do these events? And I ran into this lady, Kathy Helmington. Actually, I think the first thing we ever did was donate to another organization. So we gathered clothes and items and we took it to Boys Town, Texas, in San Antonio. I think they changed their name or entered the organization, but at the time she was the CEO. And me and her developed a relationship, and then I want to say almost a year later, she branched off and started her own organization, which is now San Antonio Threads, which is a really large organization that provides free brand new clothing to at-risk youth that are coming out of foster centers. And so this lady, she from day one, she showed me things, she introduced me to people, but she really just showed me like the hope of a nonprofit. If you do some really really good work and you build something, the donors and the funding will be there, and then you'll look up, you'll have more funding than a for-profit organization, or you'll have pretty much the same. It just depends on how strong you build this program. And so I remember she would just show me things and tell me things, and that really gave me the hope that one day you could really do this. And so for me, it was years of developing. volunteering, doing a lot of stuff for free, being inside of those classrooms, just listening to what the kids was needing, but also listening to what the teachers was needing, talking to parents, but then using my business expertise. And so I look at it like this. You know, a nonprofit is a tax status, not a business model. A lot of people look at it the wrong way when they're going into it and not truly understanding that sometimes that you may have a really good business idea, but that may be better suited to be a nonprofit versus a for-profit. And so for me, I said, if I'm going to do this, I have to figure out the way to monetize this brand and this mission, because ultimately I know the type of things I want to do in my personal life, the type of life I want to live. I want to be able to, still make some money for myself and for my family as a man. And so how do I do this while also leading an organization and serving thousands of kids? And so I looked at it, like the average millionaire, you have 8 different streams of income. As an organization, how do we build ourselves to have different streams of income? And so develop the program. It took me 4 years to actually get a program off the ground, develop the program, and then I figured out ways to spin off the program, right? And so you have the thrift store, which is something new that we introduced last year. That came from me spending 2 years as a sales manager with Pepsi. I was a retail manager. I was managing the large format accounts, which are the grocery chains, your Walmart, your Targets. So I managed those accounts, and I seen the numbers that we were pouring in on a quarterly basis, and I noticed that retail, a specific type of retail, will never die because it's recession proof. So throughout the pandemic, a lot of businesses, had to be on hold, but Pepsi, we soared even higher because people needed retail, they needed drinks, they needed food. And so I thought about that. I said, okay, from a retail standpoint, how can I develop something like that for the organization? Traditionally, thrift stores have always been kind of what nonprofits did, and so I was like, okay, hey, maybe we could do something and as a thrift store, but allow the kids to come work. That way, it serves a mission and a purpose. That way, when people shop, they're not just looking at an average thrift store. They're knowing that behind this, I'm donating or I'm buying something from the store, but they're allowing these same kids to get paychecks and things of that nature. So that's what we got that at. And then I looked at merchandise. I looked at product sales. Okay, we need merchandise. You need the t-shirts. You need the tote bags, the swag items, but also you need some type of materials that you can you sell at a bulk order, because every kid is not going to have the opportunity to come in your program. Kids in New York or California, they're not going to be able to do the in-person programming. So that's when we developed the book, the flashcards. So finding different ways to spin off the product. And so me taking really all of the business expertise from college to corporate is really how, we built the organization to what it is today. And I think, you know, we're probably we're knocking on the door of really hitting a really good stride because we spent so many years of developing. We have a program, you have a certified vendor statement, you're certified by the state of Texas. You have so many certifications that support the program. You have proof, you have data, you have analytics, and you have products to sell. Now you can really do some damage in the nonprofit industry. And so, me just kind of loving business and being a part of business my whole life, I took that same blueprint and implemented it into the nonprofit organization.
I think that's genius. I like the way you think. And the simple fact that you took the experience that what you already had coming out of school in the retail industry to actually allow that to uh, be I guess you said blueprint, but also the roadmap, as you
Yeah.
will, to building the thing. But why youth? Because so many people go into nonprofits for so many different reasons. But why was that in the area that you wanted to focus on? Why was that important for you?
The why youth, I think it's because at the time I was still young, a little bit, like 19. So I think for me, I looked at it like having my parents in my life was everything for me. But there's a lot of young people who just don't have anybody. And you come across some super talented kids. And ultimately, those kids are written off by the community or the school because, oh, that's a bad child. I look at it like I don't think no child is born bad, but circumstances and their community turns them into who they are. And so I think for me, the soft point of knowing that some kids just are not allowed to be kids. I think that's something that always messed with me because I just remember just like enjoying my holidays, enjoying my life as a kid, with knowing that somebody around the corner or in my classroom doesn't have that same luxury. That was something that always just struck a chord in my heart. And so for me, being a 19-year-old student, I think me not being too old at the time, but still having that emotional ties, allowed me to create something for the youth by the youth. And I feel like me still being young, it was easier for me to connect back to the youth because they can see me come in the classroom and they can envision being, somebody like me or even better than me in a few years. And so I think that was kind of in my inspiration. But ultimately, the youth are the future. And if you want to do anything in this world, especially when it comes down to business and community, you have to factor in the future. And I think there's a legacy behind it because at some point there's going to be a young person that's going to come in and lead the organization, and I can sit back and say, hey, you're the CEO now. And so that was something that always inspired me as well, knowing that I can hand the baton to the next legacy and the next generation, and then they can do the same thing that we've done but do it better for the new generation that's up to come. And so I think that was the inspiration, working with the youth. But working with the youth, they've always been very vulnerable and transparent. If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. I think sometimes with adults can be a little hard because we may play good at faking it a little bit because we don't like to hurt feelings. But I like the kids will always raw with us. Like they'll tell us, hey, this program sucks, or I'm not learning anything. So I think that was always something that kept us on our toes because kids give it to you straight. But if they like you, they like you and they trust you, they'll do some really good things for you.
You are after my heart. I don't even know, like, I don't even know what else to say, but I know that you are definitely God sent. I mean, just I know I don't do a whole lot of number based things, but from the fact that you were 12 when you actually came up with the giving thing, I was 12 when I lost my mother. She was 29 to breast cancer. I started my organization for almost the same reason that you did. When it wasn't, I started it as a nonprofit, but it was one of those things for me. It was a little bit more challenging because again, you don't know what you don't know, but people don't see and share the same visions to what you're building. So, board situations and all of that. So I was like, okay, let me turn this into a business. So the Slight Education Consulting Agency was actually built based off of how I felt as a 12-year-old going through a process of losing my mom because I felt like I wanted more for myself. I didn't want to be a product of my environment because the environment that we ended up in was not the very best for a young woman, let alone a young boy. Because my brother at the time was what, 5. And
Mm.
so I literally promised her on her deathbed that I was going to actually go to school and I wanted to, get a degree and I was going to do something with myself to make sure that I gave back, right? And then the thing about that too, we realized that even though we have those teachers in our schools and counselors in our schools to be there to help us, they're not. I noticed that even regardless, I wanted the information. They didn't come to me. I had to go to them. And so
Mhm.
if you don't have the questions, you don't know what questions to ask as a student, as a 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid, you're kind of feeling like you're fending for yourself and you don't know what to do. So that's where my whole thing came is building the business that I did back in '09 because it was like, I want our black and brown kids to know that somebody is out here to help you. And regardless if you don't know what to ask, I was going to the schools and I was, having those conversations with superintendents because it is important. And I'm glad to hear you say that. I really am glad to hear you say that because it resonates with me so much. So what has been the success so far with your program?
I would say the success. There's a multitude of things. The success of the program has seen kids taking basic idea. I'm not gonna say basic, but you take an idea and truly launch it off. I think the most successful student that we have so far is the young lady Ariana Edwards. I brag about her every time I get to speak. She got a scholarship from us in 2021 during the pandemic. She was an HBCU student, and at the time when I seen the application, I was going through it. I instantly knew. I said she's going to be big, and I don't know what it is. I always tell people like I have this God given thing where I can kind of feel something. I knew she was going to be big because she created a shoe brand, a designer shoe brand for women with larger foot sizes, and it's called Baila Shoes. But to me, for her having such a niche based business at a young age, I just knew her market and her demographic would instantly take her off. And about a year or two later, after that scholarship, I seen her. She was published in Macy's, so her shoes is actually in Macy's. She's been on Essence, BET, Forbes. She's been on Vogue. She's been on all these major publications. And I think she graduated from college and went straight into her business full time. But seeing her, take the funding, take the resources, and we probably paid 10 or maybe even less than 10% of her overall success. But just seeing what a student can do when you just give them that push is
Yeah.
truly, truly inspiring. So she's one of our students I'm super, super proud of. We have another young lady who's been with us since 2023. She was at the A-Leaf Summer Fest where we had a summer camp, summer program, and she was an eighth grader at the time, going into ninth grade. She was her group one, but her mom kept in contact with me. So when we opened the store, she was one of the first kids that we allowed to actually come work at the store. Now with her being in middle school, she works when I'm only there, so I put her to projects, but she knows how to do the cash register, pretty much everything at the store. But she's been with us. She came back this year for a second program, but she brought all of her cousins this time. And then I decided, I said, you know what, with her being around for so long, she knows everything. I want her to be the face of the program. So now we're working on her becoming the student experience lead. And she's the person that's going to lead all of the events. So we just graduated 3 kids at the last graduation. She did the keynote, she did everything. And so she's been kind of like my right hand. I bring her in, I say, hey, Miss Kaylin, this is what I need you to do. Work with the kids. She's like their mentor, but she's also the face that people are starting to see. So I'm very proud of these young ladies because one is a little older, but one is a lot younger. But you can see the confidence that they get when you invest into the kids. And so that's always something to brag about. Our program has grown from being just a basic idea into now a state awarded and state funded organization. When I say state, you know, we're now partnering and under the Texas Education Agency as a new CTSO. And so what that means for people who are not too familiar, career technical state organizations are organizations like FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, FFA, and DECA. These are organizations that have been around for decades on top of decades. I'm talking about 100+ years, and they are embedded in state culture and school culture. But our organization is a new CTSO, and what this means, it's bigger than life, you know, because we're on a stage with the HISD, the Texas A&M's, large organizations, and for us, we're still kind of looked at as a grassroots organization. So to be at the table, but also have a seat at the table where we can make decisions, but to know that we are state aligned with the new curriculum, it just means so much. And so we're super excited because the program went from literally me building this out on I remember it was a Friday night. I was supposed to go to a party with my friends 2 years ago. I didn't even go. And I sat there and I built that curriculum. And to see where it is 2 years later, it just truly means a lot. The program is vendors with HISD, 4B and ISD, Harris County Department of Education. So we have, you know, partnerships with all of the major institutions here in Houston, Texas, when you think about education. And then we have the state aligned. And so our program has grown from just something that we were doing as college kids to really something that's substantial, that has a lot of meaning behind it, servicing over 5,000 kids since 2017. And so, you know, I always tell people, like, you don't know exactly where God is going to take you, but if you just keep pushing and keep going, and I know it's hard to do that, you know, because it's hard, especially at times when you just don't know. But for me to sit here and say that I'm a CTSO when I really was at high school, when I had friends that were in FBLA, it's just something that's just bigger than life that I couldn't even imagine. If you'd have told me this a year ago, I probably wouldn't even see this on the horizon because I was just building an organization and we met the TEA people, and I just stayed in contact with them. I just stayed consistent and I just did, you know, meetings with them. But they believed in us and they're working with us. And so we're super excited to see what this grows into. And I'm looking at this program, you know, to be something that I want kids required to take this. I want this to be like the Avid at your campus, to where you have to take this maybe as an 8th grader or maybe as a high school senior. But I want kids have to take this, and I want them want to take this. I want them to be talking about, hey, I'm in the Young Billionaires Club program. I'm working on my business. I'm about to start. I want our kids to be a part of this because it's essential moving forward. The economy has changed, society has changed, and ultimately education has changed since the pandemic. And I want our kids to be better equipped when it's time for them to go out into the real world.
Yes. Well, first of all, congratulations. That's huge. So good. So good. So good. So good. So why the name the Young Billionaires? You know, people throw millionaire out there a lot. So why you said, you know what, I don't want to be, we're not doing just millionaire status. We want to be the Billionaires Club. So why that name?
You know, it's so funny. I get my best thoughts in the middle of the night, and I don't know what I was doing. I think I was taking a nap or something, but I woke up and it was on my mind. It was Young Billionaires Club, and I said, "Okay, we're going to do this." Reason being because during the pandemic, or maybe right before the pandemic, I was doing a bunch of speaking engagements, and all you hear is the kids saying, "I want to be rich. I want to be rich." And then you talk to them about money and business, they don't have a clue, but everybody wants to be rich. But you have to pay attention to the trend now. The trend now is how to get rich fast, and you see so many kids clicking on TikTok videos of how to make $10,000 an hour or how to do this, and they're intrigued by it. And these kids study that type of stuff because they want to make money to improve their quality of living. So my thing is like, okay, that's what they want. how do we build something around the youth, for the youth, by the youth, but ultimately how do you get kids excited to be in your program, because things have to catch their attention. You have to have shock value with the kids, because if not, they're going to lose focus, and they're not going to be interested. And then once you lose them, it's really really hard to gain their attention back. And so my thing was, how do we create something that's cool, that's urban, that kids can say, but how can we create something that if you walk past it, it makes you come back to it? Because it could have been easily, hey, the Sanders Hand Money Club or something like that. But now I was like, nah, we need something that's going to really, really get their attention. And so growing up, I always liked Billionaire Boys Club by Pharrell, the clothing line. I always liked the clothing line. So I said, okay, how can I play with that and spin it off into the Young Billionaires Club? And so I remember I was sleeping, and it just came to me, and I said, okay, I'm gonna roll with that name. The reason we put billionaires is because I always feel like just go higher, like in business, like you always go for the higher number, and then you ultimately negotiate to a standing point. So let's just go higher. Let's not even put the M on it. We put the billionaire on it because I feel like it has more shock value to the kids. And we started to roll it out, and I started to see like, oh, I like that name. And you started to hear administrators like the name. So I was like, okay, we got something here. And 2021 is when we developed it. And I went to a training with Crystal Chanel. She's the assistant to Trader Truth. She does nonprofit consulting. And I remember I was in there, and she gave me a template. She said, okay, you need a program. I said, I have a name, I just don't have the structure. She gave me a template. She said, you need to build this out. And once you build it out, this is what you start to package and you promote. And this is how you recruit your kids. And that's how I learned how to structure it. Now, over time, I started to work with more educators who allowed me to see how to do it from an educator standpoint. So we restructured some things, but she's the one that helped me take all the thoughts out of my head and actually put it on the paper. And we've been working with the program since 2021.
It seems like God is literally just aligning you at the right moment with the right people just to make sure that you receive everything that you need to receive for these kids. And I can see it, and I see that you are a man of faith and a man of belief. And so when you are in alignment with what God's purpose and plan is for you, the doors just open up, and he just places the people right in your path. So I see that for you, and I know that you're doing so many things for this community, especially when you said that while you volunteered for 2 years. There is a part in the Bible that literally says he wants you to actually get out there and give first before you can do the thing. So if someone out there, you volunteer, you give your time, you give your treasures to help other people, you serve first, and God will actually direct everything else. And you did that for 2 years, and look at where you are now, because you couldn't even see it, you didn't even know. But action creates the path, and you actually was doing the thing. So what has been, have you, I know we are like what, a week in, we have a week left to 2024, almost less than. um so your goals and all of that, so where do you see your future plans for your organization?
Our future plans, I look at us, continuously to develop this program until we get something embedded in the district. And when I say embedded, I want this a part of like requirement or curriculum. I'm working to get to that level. So that's one of the things that I see for the future of the program. Also seeing a consistent rotation of kids coming to work at the store, getting programming out of the store, and we get to a point to where we can have our program, I'm sorry, the store as like a job co-op for kids. So kids can actually go to school for a few hours, then go work at the store for the last remaining hours. So having a solidified co-op apprenticeship program operating under the Young Billionaires Club and the Young Billionaires Club thrift store. So that's what ultimately what we're striving to, and also to get our kids paid at the same time. Not to just get the education experience, but get them paid so they can invest back into their lives. And so that's what we're working on within the next 3 to 5 years. We're hoping to secure at least one district here in the Houston, Texas area as a pilot, and then from there, having so much success within that one district, then we go to another district. And with that, I want to open up more stores because, like I was telling my staff, and I was telling our people, I said, guys, we're not selling just clothes, right? We're selling the ability for youth to become financially stable. So we got to change the way that we think about what it is, because ultimately, the model that we're chasing, goodwill has been around for so long. You may not necessarily get to that in the time frame, but if you can carve out a little bit of what they do and create your own lane, you would create a name for yourself where people will remember you and go straight to you when they think about thrifting or thinking about donating their clothes. And so as we continue to grow this organization and this programming, of course, right now we're in the Southwest Houston A-Leaf area. At some point, you may secure a partnership with an Aldine ISD or Humble ISD. That's going to call for you to say, okay, maybe we need a store in that area. So start looking at franchise models. And when we're looking at franchise models, is ultimately it's not people just popping up thrift stores to make money, but you're giving those kids in that community an opportunity to go work and get financial education. And so in the next, 3 to 5 years, I'm hoping to, not gonna say hope, but I'm manifesting that we have locations outside of Texas that have adopted a franchise model that I've created and laid out that's going to allow for kids all over the United States to go work at these stores to get financial education from these stores. But now we have Young Billionaire Club programming outside of just the base of our home. And so for me, looking at growth and expansion in the right way, but looking at ways that we can continue to grow because there's a kid everywhere that needs the literacy that we're trying to teach. And so, over these next few years, our two biggest focus is growing out this program, getting it set in stone and a household name with the district, and then growing our franchise model of our thrift store concept, and allowing more communities and more places to get that on the job training at the Young Billionaires Club Thrift Store Hub.
Good. I have two questions for you. Another one you sparked one in me. So, how long is the program?
The program runs from 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks. And are you affiliated with Ghana by any chance?
Yeah, so we have a international location in Ghana. We started this, I want to say the end of 2021, going into 2022. So it's a very, very new concept. They're actually in the stage of rebranding everything, and so soon they're going to adopt the Young Billionaires Club model because in 2025 we're releasing the online campus. So they're going to get a taste of the online campus, and we're going to give 1,000 vouchers for them to recruit 1,000 kids for free just to join the online campus. And so our Ghana location is pretty much it's the same name. It's just a franchise model, but their programming is a lot different because their need is different than our needs over here. And so they're more focused on the technology base. So we opened up a computer lab in 2022, and it's named the Juanita Sanders E-Learning Center. So it's named after my late grandmother. And this allows the people in the community to come learn Microsoft skills, computer skills, technology skills. And it's been around for about 2 years. We're still new. We're still learning how to put everything together, but we're rebranding them now so they can actually be the first international location to adopt the Young Billionaires Club online campus. So we got some really big things that we're working on with them, but we're super excited about that. And then at some point, I want to go out there in person just to see everything and meet the team. Every year they have an annual spelling bee. And this spelling bee brings in like 1,000+ kids and even like 300 adults. So you got the churches, you got the teachers, the parents. It's super big, and it means so much because um, here in the United States, like when you talk about spelling bees, our kids may not necessarily want to do that. They don't think it's cool. They don't think it's fun. But they come together for the spelling bee, and it's such a huge thing in that area. And so I'm looking forward to doing more with them, partnering more with them, and growing that out as well. But I think we have something special in Ghana, and I think in the next 5 years, that learning center is probably going to turn into some type of school or facility that's larger than just what we already have because the need is there, but the community supports. And when I say they support, I mean they come out in numbers. And so I'm very, very excited for what we got going on with them. We have a really good person in place. He's been running the program. They actually had another organization before we adopted them, so they was under another name. They just needed the support, and so we came in and just started providing support. But it's been something that we've been working on for the last few years. But I think with the online campus launching, I think we can do something really good for them.
Oh my goodness! Look, you're in the States. We're in Ghana. We're doing every big thing. So I'm like, okay, we're getting certified with the state. It's like one thing after another. And so this is amazing. Another reason why I'm going to share, 'cause I am now on the board, and so because I believe so 2,000% in what you're doing, I can see the vision. I know I'm a visionary in heart as well, and to know that you are literally building something for tomorrow. Our kids are the future. And so we have to make sure that we're giving and building their minds and making sure we're pouring into them. Because if we don't, then where will we be? Right. And I love everything that you're doing from teaching the literacy. We're teaching business. You're talking about business plans, actually understanding what a business model looks like. And you're taking them through a whole process of building something for themselves so they can physically understand that you too can do this thing called business. You can have a legacy. You can be a millionaire if you work it. You have to do the work, but it also starts with the knowledge, right? But yeah, I think that you and your team are doing some amazing things. So how can the listeners find the organization? if they want to get tapped in?
Yeah, so people can tap into us, visit our website at sandershand.org, www.sandershand.org. Reach out to us. We have a volunteer portion on that website. Subscribe to our website, visit our newsletter. I definitely encourage you to visit. You can donate through our website, and you can just learn more about the program and how you can be involved. You can follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook at sandershand.org. You can keep up with all the great things that we're doing, all of our updates. You can visit our thrift store if you're in the Houston area. We located at 12579 Richmond Ave, Suite 600, Houston, Texas 77082. We're open every day except Mondays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 12 to 6. You can reach out to us via email at thesandershand@gmail.com. But just please get in contact. I look at people as our partners, right? I look at people as our partners and investors. You're investing into education, you're investing into financial education, you're investing into community. And this is similar to a 401k investment or a stock investment because the ROI on this is greater than what you can ever imagine. And so, I invite you to be encouraged, be inspired, but become a partner and become the change in your community. And we can't do this without the support of people like yourself and people like anybody that's out there that has a heart of giving. We cannot do this without you all. And what we're trying to do is not necessarily change education, but partner with education to improve it. And what we're trying to do is really give these kids the skills that they need to become financially stable when they leave high school. And the last thing I say is there's such a need that sometimes we don't even pay attention to it. And I never forget that last year I was at Aldine High School doing a talk, and the kids were getting ready to graduate. I was there in March; they were getting ready to graduate in May or maybe June. And the teacher asked them, "Who's ready for high school? I'm sorry, who's ready to graduate?" One of the kids is like, "I don't really know what to do next, so I'm kind of scared." And that always strike me because he's a senior, getting ready to leave. And I remember when I was a senior, I couldn't wait to get out of high school. But this is a senior that's scared because he doesn't know what's going to come next. And there's so many kids out there like that. And if you really think about it, at least 75% of those kids walking those hallways are just like that. They need us, they need you. So if you have, anything, right, whether it's financial, whether it's time to volunteer, whether you even have the resource to come in and teach a class, join us, become a partner because we can do more with strength and numbers. And I last thing I say is like I wouldn't be here today without God, and I say this last season of life has been it's been probably the hardest season of my life because God had hit me with so many different things, but he's building me into the man that I've always dreamed of. And every loss or every perceived loss or everything that you go through is ultimately to build you up. And so ultimately I wanted to give up so many times. Still sometimes I'll be like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. But God has a huge plan, and at moments he places people in your life or he puts you in certain settings to always remind you that you're right where you're supposed to be at. And so anybody that's getting into nonprofits, it's a hard battle. It's a hard battle to build something that people want to actually support and donate. But if you can build a mission that makes sense to people, that makes sense to donors and funders, you can really do some magical things. And so, that's my advice for anybody. And it's an honor once again to be in your presence. It's an honor to have you a part of our team. When we met that night and we had that conversation with that family, I just knew. I said this is somebody that we need because she can teach leadership and help our kids excel at a higher rate. So it's an honor to have you, and looking forward to doing some good things in 2025.
Oh, thank you for that. Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry. But this is the reason why I said yes. What you just stated right now, it's all of that, 2000%. So if those that are listening to the podcast and you are feeling everything that he has shared regarding his organization, his why, what are we trying to do in 2025 and beyond? I'm going to actually put a link in the show notes of the podcast. So if you want to give, just click the link. It's going to the kids, it's going to a cause, it's going to educate and all the programs that we're doing to support the Young Billionaires Club and the Sanders Hand nonprofit organization. So give and donate if you understand why it is so important to do this type of work. So I hope you've gotten everything out of this the way I have. I've enjoyed you, and thank you so much for saying yes. This has been another great episode of the Sly Ed Experience podcast, where successors lead you through education and determination. I am your host, Latasha Sly, and as always, take care.